Excuses were the only thing he'd ever been consistent at. Mason Reed had big dreams, talk show kind of dreams, headline kind of dreams. But dreams without discipline are just wishes, and Mason had built his entire life on wishes. Every morning, he told himself he'd start eating clean, start working out, start building the company he'd been talking about for 5 years. And every night, he told himself he'd start tomorrow. There was always a reason not to. Too tired, too busy, too broke, too late. Excuses were easier than effort. So days became weeks. Weeks became years. And Mason stayed the same, while everyone else passed him. He scrolled through their lives online like a ghost. Former classmates running companies, traveling the world, posting pictures from boardrooms and beaches. And him, still in the same cramped apartment, the same dead-end job, the same sagging couch he'd promised himself he'd outgrow. He kept telling people he was waiting for the right time. But deep down, he knew the truth. He wasn't waiting for the right time. He was waiting for it to be easy. It never got easy. It just got heavier. The weight of failure settled on his chest like lead. He started avoiding mirrors. Stopped answering friends. Stopped saying the word future. Because the future hurt too much to think about. Then came the night everything snapped. It was almost midnight. Rain hammered the cracked windows of his apartment. He sat slumped on the couch, pizza box open beside him, TV flickering with noise he wasn't hearing. His phone buzzed, a photo from an old friend. The caption, "First million. More to come." Mason stared at it until his vision blurred, not with envy, with shame. Because that guy wasn't smarter, wasn't luckier, wasn't better. He was just disciplined. He had done the work Mason kept making excuses to avoid. Something inside Mason cracked open. It wasn't rage. It wasn't motivation. It was disgust with the lies, with the laziness, with the man he'd become. He stood up, walked to the bathroom mirror, and forced himself to look. The eyes staring back at him were hollow, tired, defeated. And he whispered, "No more." That night, Mason opened a blank notebook and wrote 3 words across the first page in black marker. No more excuses. Then he made a list of every habit he hated about himself and what he would replace them with. No more snoozing alarms, wake up at 5. No more skipping workouts, train daily. No more takeout meal prep every Sunday. No more wasting time, work 3 hours on his business idea every night after his shift. Not when he felt like it. Every single day. He didn't wait for motivation. He built a cage of discipline and locked himself inside it. The first morning was brutal. He woke up in darkness at 5 a.m., his body screaming to stay in bed. He whispered, "Shut up," to his own mind and dragged himself to the gym. His lungs burned. His legs shook. His vision blurred. But he finished. Then he went to work. Then he came home and worked on his business plan until midnight. Then he woke up and did it again. By day 3, the excuses were screaming louder than ever. You deserve rest. You're tired. You're not ready. But discipline doesn't care how you feel. So he shut them out and showed up anyway. And something strange started to happen. By the end of the first week, he didn't hate himself anymore. By the end of the second, he started to trust himself again. And one night, 2 weeks in, as he walked back from the gym under the buzzing streetlights, soaked in sweat and silence, a wild thought flashed through his mind like lightning. If I keep this up, I could actually win. The first thing discipline gave him wasn't success. It was silence. For years, his mind had been a war zone of noise. Excuses arguing with guilt, fear wrestling with ambition, every day a shouting match between who he was and who he wished he could be. But now it was just quiet, because there were no more negotiations. No more maybe later. No more if I feel like it. Just do it or don't. And Mason was done with don't. He lived like a soldier. Up at 5 a.m. gym at 5:30. Shower. Breakfast. Work shift. Then home. 3 hours of deep work on his business idea. He built a wall of rules around himself and didn't let feelings climb over it. He stopped saying, "I can't." He started saying, "I will." The old Mason lived on impulse. The new Mason lived on structure. His body hated him at first. Every workout felt like war. Every meal felt like punishment. Every night he collapsed on the floor beside his desk instead of his bed. But his mind was catching fire. He started thinking clearly again. The fog of shame lifted. The self-hate faded. Every day he kept his promise to himself. Something powerful sparked in his chest. Self-respect. Not pride. Not ego. Just the quiet knowledge that he could trust himself again. 3 weeks in, he saw it in the mirror. Not abs. Not muscles. Eyes. They weren't hollow anymore. They were sharp. Alive. Hunting. The world didn't notice yet. While everyone else posted parties and vacations, Mason stayed invisible, grinding in silence, nights lit by the glow of his laptop screen. He didn't chase attention. He chased progress. His business plan, the one that had sat untouched for years, started coming alive piece by piece. Product sketches, market research, budgets, branding. Brick by brick, he was building something real. And every day, the excuses came back weaker. They still whispered, "You're tired. You're missing out. You could take a day off." But discipline spoke louder now. Do it anyway. And he did. The strangest part was how small the world became. Before, everything distracted him. Social media, TV, parties, gossip. Now it was just the work. The weights. The silence. He no longer cared what anyone thought. While they chased likes, he chased legacy. One night, after a 12-hour shift, he sat alone at his desk, sweat drying on his shirt, staring at the business plan that was almost finished. And it hit him. No one had seen any of this. No one had clapped. No one had even noticed. But it didn't matter. Because discipline had taught him something motivation never could. Progress isn't owed applause. It's earned in silence. By week 6, his life had split in two. Half of it was still invisible, the grind, the discipline, the pain. The other half was starting to glow, strength in his body, confidence in his walk, clarity in his mind. People at work started asking what had changed. He just smiled. Because how could he explain it? How could he explain that he had buried the old version of himself in a grave made of routines, and every day, he was stepping further away from the tomb? He wasn't motivated anymore. He was something far more dangerous. Relentless. One night, as he shut down his laptop at 1 a.m. and stood in the silent apartment, sore and exhausted but unbroken, he whispered to the empty room, "I don't need easy. I just need daily." And for the first time in his life, he knew this wouldn't fade. This wasn't hype. This was who he was now. The change crept up on him slowly. At first, it was invisible. Just small victories that no one saw. An alarm that never got snoozed. A gym session that never got skipped. Another page written, another task checked off, another promise kept. Then one morning, he caught his reflection mid-lift in the gym mirror. And for the first time, he didn't see a fraud. He saw someone becoming dangerous. By week 8, people at work noticed first. Not the muscles. Not the weight loss. The energy. Mason walked differently now. Head up. Shoulders back. Eyes locked, not drifting like they used to. He no longer blended in like office furniture. He moved with purpose, and people could feel it. Coworkers asked if he'd gotten promoted. Some even asked if he'd started some kind of program. He just smiled. Because how could he explain it? This wasn't a program. This was war. The routines had become iron. Wake at 5. Lift heavy. Cold shower. Work. Build. Sleep. No missed days. No skipped reps. No excuses. And with every rep, every late night, every rejection he ignored, his business plan evolved into something real. A lean startup concept for a digital platform to help local creators launch small brands with zero overhead. Before, it had been a fantasy. Now it was becoming a blueprint. And discipline was the engine driving it. The world started reacting. He posted his first quiet update on social media in nearly a year. Just a photo of his desk at midnight, captioned, "Building in silence." Within hours, old friends messaged him, "Where have you been? You look different. You're glowing, bro." They saw the surface, the glow, the sharpness, but they didn't see the cost. They didn't see the nights he sat alone, exhausted, too sore to stand, staring at a screen while his body begged for rest. They didn't see him walk past parties with music spilling into the street while he went home to work. They didn't see the version of himself he had buried. And they didn't need to. Because he hadn't done this to impress them. He had done this to redeem himself. Then came his first test in the real world. A small local entrepreneurship expo, the kind of event where people pitch ideas to judges in folding chairs under buzzing fluorescent lights. A year ago, he would have laughed at it. Now, he treated it like a battlefield. He showed up with his business plan polished, his pitch rehearsed like scripture, his product mock-ups sharp and clean. He didn't bring hype. He brought clarity. He stood on the cracked linoleum floor and spoke like a man who had burned his excuses to ash. When he finished, the room was silent. Then the judges clapped. They asked for meetings. 2 asked for his card on the spot. Walking home afterward, Mason didn't smile, didn't celebrate. He just nodded once, like a soldier checking off a mission. Because discipline had taught him something deeper than motivation ever could. Victory is not a surprise to the prepared. The next weeks hit like a storm. Investors wanted to talk. A local incubator offered him a shared workspace. Creators wanted to beta test his platform. He started working 12-hour days without noticing the time. His old job became a formality. He showed up, performed perfectly, and left without lingering. People whispered. They sensed something different about him now. Because discipline does that. It makes you dangerous quietly. But with success came the return of something darker. The old voices. You can ease up now. You've earned a break. You don't have to be this strict anymore. Temptation disguised itself as comfort. But Mason had seen where comfort led. A couch. A hollow stare. A wasted life. So he tightened his grip. He trained harder. Worked sharper. Cut deeper. And every time the voices whispered stop, discipline answered, go. By month 4, he wasn't chasing his goals anymore. He was hunting them. And for the first time in years, he knew he was going to win. That night, after another long session at the gym, sweat dripping down his face under the streetlights, Mason whispered into the night air, "This is just the beginning." And for the first time, he believed it. Success didn't test him. Failure did. Because discipline isn't proven in comfort. It's proven when everything goes wrong at once. And everything was about to go wrong. By month 5, Mason's life had become a war machine. He slept 5 hours a night, worked 2 jobs, his day job and his future, lived on protein, black coffee, and iron will. The business was almost ready to launch. Investors were circling. Beta testers were raving. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like standing on a tightrope over fire. The first crack came quietly. His landlord taped a notice to his door, rent increase, effective immediately. The second crack hit harder. His day job cut his hours without warning. Budget adjustments, they called it. Suddenly his savings vanished under rent, bills, and startup costs. Then the third crack shattered him. A crucial server crashed and wiped a week of work. Mason stared at the empty screen at 2 a.m., numb, hands trembling, every part of him screaming to quit. The excuses came roaring back like a flood. This isn't worth it. It's too hard. Maybe you're just not meant to win. He almost listened. He sat there for hours in the dark, slumped over his desk, forehead pressed to his hands, mind spinning with panic and exhaustion. He thought about walking away, thought about deleting it all, thought about going back to the couch, the quiet, soft, painless couch. But then he remembered the man he used to be, the man who lived on excuses, the man who lied to himself every day, the man who let years rot away waiting for the right time. He had buried that man. He wasn't going to let him crawl back out. So he stood up, made black coffee, opened a new blank document, and started rebuilding everything from memory, line by line, hour by hour. The sun rose while he was still typing. When the world woke up, Mason was already winning again. That became his pattern. Every setback became fuel. Every loss became a reason to sharpen. He trained harder at the gym, slamming through sets with fire in his eyes. He coded faster, cleaner, sharper, like he was racing death. He cut out every last distraction. No social media, no calls, no noise. Just silence. Steel. Work discipline carried him when motivation abandoned him. By month 6, he was a different creature. His shoulders were broad. His mind was razor wire. His eyes burned like embers. And his platform, the project that had once been a dream, was finally ready to launch. The night before launch, he stood alone in the silent apartment. No music, no noise, no fanfare, just him, and the ghost of every excuse he had ever made, standing around him like shadows. They whispered, "You're not ready. What if it fails? What if you fail again?" He smiled, because he understood something now. Excuses never go away. They just get quieter when discipline speaks louder. At midnight, he clicked launch. Orders started as a trickle, then a stream, then a flood. By sunrise, his servers were already near capacity. By noon, creators across the country were signing up. By nightfall, the same blogs that once ignored him were writing headlines like, "Local founder launches revolutionary creator platform." Investors emailed. Reporters called. The world that once doubted him now raced to catch up. But Mason didn't celebrate. He trained. He worked. He slept. Because discipline had rewired him down to his bones. Victory wasn't a finish line anymore. It was just proof that his system worked. One night, a few days after launch, he walked out of the gym under buzzing streetlights, air cold on his sweat-soaked shirt. His phone buzzed nonstop in his pocket. Orders, offers, interviews. He ignored them. He just stood still, breathing deep, looking up at the black sky. He thought about the man he used to be, the lazy, hollow version of himself who waited for life to hand him something. And he whispered into the night, "You're gone." Success didn't arrive like lightning. It arrived quietly, like dawn, slow and unstoppable. Weeks passed after launch. Core metrics climbed. Customers raved. Revenue grew steadily. The platform that had once been scraps on a dying laptop now pulsed with life. Creators were launching real businesses on it. People who had been invisible were now building something of their own because of what Mason had built. He watched it happen silently from his desk, and for the first time in his life, he didn't feel like an imposter. He felt like a builder. The world noticed. Tech blogs called him the discipline disruptor. Investors who had once ignored him now begged to buy in. Old coworkers sent messages like, "I knew you had it in you." They hadn't, but it didn't matter, because this wasn't about them anymore. Mason had stopped chasing applause. He didn't need congratulations, didn't crave credit. He didn't build for likes. He built because it was who he had become. Discipline had carved him into something unrecognizable from the man who once wasted his life on excuses. His body was strong now. His mind was steel. His will was unbreakable. And when he looked in the mirror now, he didn't see someone pretending. He saw someone inevitable months later. He stood on a small stage at a local entrepreneurship summit. 100 young builders sat in the audience, eyes locked on him, phones silent, waiting. He didn't bring slides. He didn't wear a suit. He just told them the truth. He told them how he wasted years making excuses, waiting to feel ready while life passed him by. He told them about the night he snapped, the nights he worked until sunrise, the days he bled discipline from every pore while no one was watching. He told them how discipline rebuilt his mind before it rebuilt his life. The room was silent. Then Mason said this, "You don't need to feel ready. You don't need motivation. You don't need permission. You just need to do it anyway. Every day, especially on the days you don't feel like it." Excuses fade. Motivation fades. But discipline will outlast every excuse you have. The applause hit like thunder. He smiled faintly, nodded, and stepped quietly off the stage. Outside, the night air was cold and clean. The same city that once buried him now hummed around him, a blur of lights and movement that no longer intimidated him. He walked slowly, no hurry, no noise, just calm, steady steps. Because he knew something now. Even if it all disappeared tomorrow, even if the platform died, the headlines faded, even if everyone forgot his name again, he would not stop. Because discipline wasn't what he did anymore. It was who he was. And if you're hearing this, if you're tired of starting over, if you're drowning in excuses, if you keep waiting for the perfect day to begin, stop waiting. You will never feel ready. You will never feel like it. And you don't have to. You just have to show up anyway. Every day. Because one day, if you keep showing up, discipline will outlast every excuse you have.